Welcome to Shop Talk New Mexico. In today's episode, we're joined by Robert Noblin, the mayor of Belen, the hub city. We'll dive into his vision for the city, recent initiatives, and how Belen is growing while preserving its unique charm. Stay tuned for insights straight from the heart of Valencia County's leadership. Hello and welcome to Shop Talk New Mexico. Today we're here with Robert Noblin, the mayor of Belen, and we're going to be talking with him about being the mayor. We're going to talk with him about the history and the culture of Belen, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the future holds for this town. So we'll go ahead and get started introducing Mr. Robert Noblin, mayor of Belen.
Thank you, Carson. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I appreciate that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, what was it that brought you to Belen, and more importantly, what was it that brought you into politics in Belen?
You know, it's quite an interesting backstory. I moved here from my hometown, which is Fredericksburg, Virginia, just south of the Washington, D.C. area, in June of 2005 because I'm a funeral director, and there was an opportunity to purchase a local funeral home, which I did. And I came to Belen because it was a small enough town to become established as a business owner, and it was a small enough investment that if I failed, I could tuck my tail and head back east, and no one would ever remember Robert Noblin in the city of Belen. As it turns out, my business continued to grow and thrive locally and then into other adjacent towns. And it was time in about 2013 for us to expand our operations to include the addition of a crematory. So I came in front of the then seated Belen City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission to talk about a crematory. And about 2.5 years later, in a lawsuit later against the city, I was finally granted that zoning at a different property so that we could expand our business. And it started me thinking that, in small town, rural town America, or when we're talking about small business, they really are the backbone of communities. And I just didn't think that was the way any community should welcome or treat businesses. So in 2019, the first opportunity I had, I ran for city council. And I kind of piggybacked on my business, and I used the slogan, "Bury old politics." It was a hit. It worked. And I was, so gracious to be elected to the Belen City Council. And then, so in 2019, when the next opportunity presented itself, I ran for mayor. And, Belen was and is ready for change. It was a new face to the local political realm, if you will, different ideas, different approach, and I was elected, and it's been an honor to serve since then. I'm in the final year of my first term.
So, let's see. How would you describe your leadership style?
In politics, local politics here, which are pretty nonpartisan. They have to be. We don't run on parties. But in the city of Belen, our government structure is a mayor, council, city manager form of government. So when we're approached with an idea, or someone comes before the council with an idea, or we're looking to go after a project or dealing with our legislators, that's all done through a series of public meetings. And honestly, I let things take their course, but I do push because the processes in New Mexico for funding and agreements and dealing with DOT and these different state entities can be very grueling. The wheels turn, but often they're square, as I like to say, so very slow. But my leadership style is we have a great staff, city manager, city employees, city clerk in place to follow through with the goals and initiatives of the mayor and the city council. I won't say I'm I'm at all hands off as a leader, as mayor. I do provide input. I do provide um, questions. I do want to provide support in areas that I'm asked to do so and can provide it. But my leadership style is Belen has had a history of excuses, and we're beyond that. I don't listen to excuses anymore. It's time to move forward and have some progress.
Right. Very good. What are the most pressing challenges that you face as mayor of Belen, and what are you doing to address those?
I think, when you look at challenges, we're in a very unique and fortunate situation at the same time in Belen, in that we're very much still a small town. In Valencia County, we're the only municipality that has an historic downtown cultural area, if you will, in the heart of Belen here. Becker Avenue, a lot of history. At the same time, we have wonderful infrastructure as far as three freeway exits off of I-25. We have the BNSF Rail Hub. We've got the municipal airport, just doing a lot of great things with the Air Force and contracted with the Air Force for a lot of things. So we're really positioned to grow in ways that won't affect that small town feel.
Right.
I always like to say we're not trying to reinvent Belen, but we can certainly make it a better version of itself.
Right. Right. Now, I've noticed that there's a lot of industry moving into Los Lunas,
Mm-hmm.
and how has that affected Belen, either positively or negatively?
I think it's been a positive. We have a lot of property, let's say north of Belen. We own 6,000 acres on the west side of the freeway to Los Lunas Hill. We have a lot of property. In that, the majority of that property is not yet set up with infrastructure, water, sewer, et cetera, to support heavy manufacturing, industrial, those types of large developments. But what we have seen is many people moving to the area, whether that be for a job at one of the big mega facilities in Los Lunas or a couple of our new larger facilities here in Belen. It drives our gross receipts tax base. They're spending money here. They're shopping locally. They're looking for places to live locally. And let's face it, Los Lunas is busting at the seams. Good for them, but they've got some catching up to do. And in the meantime, I'd love to capitalize on that weakness of theirs and bring those folks that are moving into our area to Belen as a place to call it home. Closer commute to Los Lunas than Albuquerque or to Santa Fe, and
Oh, sure.
we're going to capitalize on that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. So, Albuquerque has been experiencing a dramatic uptick in the homeless population in the last few years. Has Belen been experiencing something similar to that?
We have. And what we see it everywhere. And I think where any community falls short is in many ways legalities tie our hands in what can be done, right? And you come to a small town like Belen, we don't have the resources to provide a shelter. There's been some movement in Valencia County to try to establish a shelter and those types of resources. We have very limited resources that we can provide. What we see is oftentimes someone who's homeless may get on the rail runner in Albuquerque, head south, Belen's the last stop, right?
Right.
We see a lot of those faces come and go. They get back to Albuquerque. They realize there's not much here to support, to help. We are seeing an uptick. And I'll tell you, I think that the unfortunate thing is, regardless of the funds that we could invest in building a shelter, providing resources, it still doesn't allow us to go out and physically bring someone into a shelter. You know, a lot of that is their personal choice. So yes, many things contributing to homelessness, many ideas out there to try and help, but nowhere that I've seen yet has really come up with a stable, solid solution.
I see. Um, Share a moment with us, or an accomplishment that you're particularly proud of as mayor.
You know, we several years back, four and a half years ago, when I was on council, we addressed the idea of having a solar array, and so we worked with a large solar company. We put a large solar array on some of our property on the west side of I-25 towards Los Lunas. Shortly after that, we were approached by Arcosa Wind Tower Development, and Arcosa wanted to put in a wind turbine facility, manufacturing facility over in the Rio Communities area, but it's unincorporated Valencia County. And we, as a city of Belen, had a strong enough rating or debt ratio, if you will, to carry the industrial revenue bonds for that project. The two of those combined kind of gained national attention, and at the time, former President Biden made a trip to Belen to visit the Arcosa wind manufacturing facility. Now, politics aside, it was an honor to have a seated president in Belen. It was the first time we'd had a seated president come to Belen, and to be a part of that kind of new era of what we're seeing, of creative ways to create energy, I'm okay with it. I'm also a fan of our oil and gas industry, and I think it needs to continue to be a backbone of New Mexico's economy. But all this needs to work together and partner together for local economics. And
Sure.
in Belen, we don't have oil and gas reserves or resources. They're not drilling in Valencia County for any of that. But what we do have is the space to allow manufacturing and other things that will help our local economy.
Right. So are you in the process of negotiating with the tech sector to bring those industries into here as they did in Los Lunas with Facebook?
Well, you know, what we've just acquired and what we have not had in the past is someone dedicated specifically to economic development. So now our reach is out there, consistently discussing with any type of company, but tech companies included, on the properties we have, the infrastructure we have, what we can offer them in regards to our airport, our rail, our freeway exits. And so we will very much entertain and welcome those types of businesses or industries. Currently, economically, I think we see things are maybe at a crawl. You know, the economic climate's shifted a little. I think that will change and things will be back on board. And we'll certainly take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves.
Right. Well, as we've seen many times before, it can go from nothing to 100 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
Overnight.
Overnight.
Yes.
Overnight.
And so
we're ready.
Yes. So overall, what would you say your vision for the future of Belen is?
You know, I gave that a lot of thought because simple equation and the vision and what we're seeing start here in Belen has to do completely with population and rooftops. And rooftops equal revenue. Rooftops mean someone has invested in your town. From the developer standpoint, there are gross receipts taxes paid on construction. That goes into the city's coffers, our general fund. Those individuals move into your town, they want to spend money in your town. Again, gross receipts taxes, property taxes are a portion of those that are allocated. Then you're going to see commercial growth stem from rooftops. Many companies come into an area and make a decision based on how many consumers or potential customers are in that direct area. So Rooftops will lead to that commercial growth. Again, all of that equals revenue. The revenue equals resources for the city, whether those resources are providing more first responders, police and fire, whether those resources are continuing to make the repairs we can on infrastructure, sidewalks, streetlights, additions to parks, upgrades to our parks. Everything falls into place based on population and rooftops, and it all comes back to or leads up to better quality of life. So the goal and the vision is to continue the growth that we've seen starting.
Right. So the good thing is that it's moving in that direction.
Correct.
And not moving backwards.
Not moving backwards.
Right. Right. Okay. Did you have anything other than that you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, I have lots,
Oh, well, by
I'll
all
talk
means,
as long as you want me to.
by all
Carson.
means, speak your mind.
Yeah. Let's see. We have some really interesting challenges in the city of Belen. One of those being infrastructure. And, we were recently, there was some negative light shed on a project that we have on the Outagon Road area of town. Outagon Road is an older area of town. The infrastructure there has been crumbling for decades. We had asbestos lines. We had, water lines that were crumbling, that were constantly breaking. The Outagon Road project was 12 years in coming to fruition with the funding sources. And that finally came together last year. All of these sources came together, plus the project had taken 12 years to get to construction, which means it was also then at that point, almost $2 million over the original budget, right? So then we as a city go back to the drawing board, we scramble, we find grants, and we match that funding so that we can get this project done. And what we saw in that project, what we learned, is that these large-scale infrastructure projects for a small town are very grueling on the residents. You can't plan for the things that are going to go wrong, and they did. Every time we got new water line installed on a large stretch of that road, we got the sewer line installed. Every time we would go to tap in a resident to the water line, the old water line would break. There was too much pressure coming in from the new lines. It was just, I admit, it was an absolute disaster. And it was a disaster that led to about 9 days of residents in that area, sporadically, off and on, being without water over a 2-3 week period. Disaster, including businesses, local fast food restaurants that couldn't serve sodas because they didn't have water. We did our best in that situation. We had the fire department out providing bottled water. We had the city's recreation center open for showers. We did our best to accommodate the residents, but ultimately, I think the eye-opener was this is going to be something that we face again and again in Belen as we continue to deal with lots of failing and aging infrastructure. And I think when you compare that with growth, with new residents coming in, you'll also see that, the complaints will be more. More and more people affected, more and more people inconvenienced. And so that's been one, addressing the current water issues and the infrastructure issues. Belen also, for decades, has been known to have issues with flooding. We kind of sit in this bowl, and these storms that we call 100 or 200-year storms are now much more frequent. And Belen, just a couple of years apart, experienced 2 really drastic flooding events in the town. 2017, I believe, and 2019. And we have spent a lot of time addressing flooding concerns. We've added, even with the Outagon Road project, we added another flood retention pond. We have cleaned and gotten our ability to hold floodwaters to a place that it's never been before. It's a much safer town. We can't put a pond on every corner, right? We're never going to be able to direct water exactly where we want it to go. But I feel like we've really put an effort into the flooding concerns. And I'm not nearly as nervous now when the storm clouds come rolling in and people are scrambling for sandbags. I feel like we have done the best that we can with the resources we have to address flooding.
Very good. If someone's coming to town, never been here before, what would you tell them are the best things to look for, things to do here in Belen?
You know, while we're so diverse in what can be done here, so many things to see. Becker Avenue has some art galleries. If you like art galleries, we have some bookstores. Books on Becker, for example, is a great place. Our library there. Historically, if you want to learn about, the origin of the hub city going back to 1908 and the Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe Railroad, which is now the BNSF, we have one of the few remaining working Harvey houses, the Harvey House Museum here in Belen, which has, in the last year and a half, also opened a great cafe called the Whistle Stop. You can check them out on Facebook. Great place to eat, great place to learn about Belen's railroad history and kind of what set things into motion here in our town. We have a really nice, welcoming Veterans Memorial at Eagle Park, a tribute to our soldiers with a nice memorial area. We've just finished a memorial walkway with fountains and a place to just go and reflect on servicemen and women, those that have served our country. Got a lot of different little restaurants, a lot of New Mexican restaurants. There are some famous ones. There are always new ones popping up.
Sure.
So, and really different. We've got 3 different wineries and wine tasting rooms, if that's something that people are into. We've got some great wine, a lot of it produced right here in Valencia County, right here in Belen. So a lot of cool things to spend the day doing in Belen.
Sounds like a great time. So what kind of activities are there for the youth here in Belen? I know that you mentioned wineries. That wouldn't be for the youth, but
Sure.
But what kind of things are there to do for the young people here?
That is something I hear about all the time, and we do have a great Parks and Rec department with summer programs. Those are very well attended by our local youth. We have a skate park. We were given a grant. It was opened last year. We were able to redesign, remodel our skate park. It's a big attraction there in Eagle Park. The things that I would like to see more of is I would like to see people come in and invest in our youth in ways of a bowling alley, a movie theater, an arcade. I think we can all admit to the fact that today's youth is not out in a park riding their bike as often as maybe they were in the past, and we're still very kind of old school in that respect.
Yeah.
We have parks.
Yeah, they're mostly playing video games.
Well, sure. I've often said to folks that that ask the question, what can youth do? What can youth do to be active in our town? And I've said it. We could spend millions in our parks, but if they don't want to be out there in the park, they're not going to be.
Right.
So, thankfully, those options as well for those that want to, be involved in technology and video games. We're really not that far from Albuquerque, and that's what so many of these businesses base their developments on. The demographics and the population within a radius. We're close enough to get there. One thing I do like to do, and I do as often as I'm able, is I like to engage with the local schools. We have mock debates. We have opportunities that the schools bring the youth in for tours of City Hall, and we talk about city government. We recently visited with a class that was tasked with coming up with a new city ordinance. And, they came up with everything from making a hedgehog the official animal of Belen to very smart things like upping the fines for littering and keeping our community clean. They were really great ideas from an elementary class. So
sounds to me like you got the kids doing your job.
Well, they're contributing. We want them to contribute.
Well, that's a good thing to have them active in their community.
Yes.
We always want the kids to be active in the community.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And anytime we can partner or collaborate with an organization involving the youth, we've done really well the last few years in creating a good bond, a good relationship with the Belen schools as well. So anything that we can team together on for youth, we're on board to do so.
Wonderful, wonderful. You have a radio show.
I do.
Tell me about that.
Well, 8 o'clock a.m. on Sundays on 8:40 a.m., which is KDNF, we have a show called Mitote with the Mayor. Mitote is an old kind of slang term in New Mexico for gossip with the mayor. We just talk about local events. We talk about the goings-on, changes, things that people might see that are a little bit more popular with city council meetings. We always extend the invitation for people to be involved in our processes and see that. It's just a way, I think, to share information and be transparent. And KDNF used to be the old Cars radio in Belen, and just in the last month, they've purchased a building to actually be rehoused in Belen. They're moving here from Grants, so they'll also be local to the community.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Last question. You gonna run for re-election?
That's a great question. I think I've got a lot of deciding to do between now and August. That's when we'll declare. I will say that I'm in a situation of timing because, yes, I have to make that decision. I would love to serve again. And in the same respect, I have to also realize that there's a time to turn over the reins so that I can devote the appropriate amount of time to my business, to the fact that my daughter's going to be finishing up her last 2 years of high school. If I can continue to do it all and do it to the extent that the residents deserve, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something
Fantastic.
I'm very much putting pen to paper.
Well, it seems that you love the job. So
Sure.
So
Sure.
loving the job that's a big part of it.
It's a big part of it. It comes with its challenges. We're
Sure.
not going to make everyone happy. I often say it in a joking manner, but it's very true. I can't say that my Christmas card list has gotten longer serving as mayor, but in the big picture, we're making a difference. We're making a difference.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, Robert Noblin.
Thanks, Carson.
Mayor of Belen.
Yes, sir.
Very nice to have a talk with you, and we'll leave it there.
Thanks.
Thank you.